Good morning. Thank you so much for joining us for today's Wednesday webinar, where we will be discussing Social Security disability following a car accident. And before we get into the content, I do want to first make mention that today's webinar is not intended to be legal advice, but is instead intended to be additional background information for those who may have been in a car accident and who may be considering applying for Social Security disability benefits. Number two, you will notice we don't answer any live questions on the webinar. And the reason for that is not because we don't want to help, but it's because we typically need a lot of information to give some semblance of a good answer to the question that you may have. It's a lot of personal information that we tend to need regarding, conditions, things like that, what's going on. And I don't want that information to be out there to others to see, hear, or read for you. So we don't take questions on the live webinar. And similarly, if you're watching on the replay, the comments down below, we don't tend to respond to questions, including super specific questions with a lot of details. And again, it's not because we don't want to help. It's because we typically need additional information to be able to give good guidance or good direction on where to go next. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and we'll drop a link in the chat on the live. If you're watching on the replay, that link is going to be down below, where you can schedule a call with us to ask the questions that you may have. If for some reason we cannot help, we do try to put you in touch or at least point you in the direction of somebody who may be able to try to help you stop from spinning the wheels going around in circles. So with all of that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Here's our roadmap for today. We will talk about some Social Security disability basics, guidance, considerations, and then we'll close out with how an attorney may be able to help you with your Social Security disability claim. A little bit about me. My name is Caitlin Wildoner. I'm the founding attorney of Beacon Disability PLLC, which is a law firm based in Florida, where we exclusively practice federal administrative law, typically focusing our practice on assisting clients with their SSDI and SSI claims at the agency level for the Social Security Administration. That means that we can sometimes help with the initial application through to the appeals council, depending on the specifics of the case. Basics of the programs we help with. There are two different disability programs administered by the Social Security Administration. There's SSDI and there's SSI. SSDI, Social Security Disability Insurance Benefits, and Supplemental Security Income, or SSI benefits. Both programs are going to require that you be disabled and unable to work for a period of at least 12 months due to one or more physical or mental impairments. Where they differ is SSDI benefits are going to require that you have a sufficient number of work credits, meaning you've paid into the Social Security system through payroll taxes for a certain amount of time. And typically we say that you must have worked 5 of the last 10 years to qualify for SSDI benefits. That does vary. SSI benefits, on the other hand, don't have a work history requirement, but they do have income and asset restrictions. You cannot have more than $2,000 in assets if you are single and more than $3,000 in assets if you are married and still qualify for SSI benefits. There are also income restrictions in addition to the asset restrictions, and we don't cover those on the webinar because they vary depending on household size. That is reviewable by the Social Security Administration. That information is out there, so you can absolutely search for that. It's just not something we cover. Assets include anything but one home and one car. So if you are married, you have a car, your spouse has a car, that second car is considered an asset. Bank accounts, investment accounts, retirement accounts, all considered to be assets. Any property that you own that you don't live in, an asset. Boats, ATVs, golf carts, things like that, assets. One thing I want to make mention of while we're on this slide here is it does require that you be disabled for at least 12 months. However, you don't have to wait for those 12 months to pass before you can apply for Social Security disability benefits under either program. What might happen is the agency may deny it. They may say, we don't think you're going to be disabled for 12 months, but that's going to be a few months after you submit the application. And you can then kind of reassess at that time, how are things going? Is it still looking like I'm going to be out of work for 12 months? If so, file the appeal. With SSI specifically, you don't want to wait 12 months to apply if you can help it, because with SSI benefits, those benefits are not payable prior to the first date of application. So if you get into a car accident in January of 2023 and you don't submit that application until January of 2024, you've lost a year of potential benefits there. SSDI is a little bit different. They can go back prior to the application up to a year, but it just depends on what the medical records look like as far as whether or not they are going to be able to do that. So that's broad overview of the two programs. Obviously, there are additional nuances and things like that that we will need to consider, but those are the broad overviews of both of those programs. When you initially submit your application for SSDI or SSI benefits, the very first thing the agency is going to look to make sure is that you do qualify for the program that you applied for. Meaning, if you've applied for SSDI benefits, they're going to check to make sure that you have the requisite work history. If you've applied for SSI benefits, they're going to check to make sure your income and assets don't exceed their thresholds. If you don't qualify for the prong under the application under the program you applied for, they're going to send a pretty quick denial, either telling you under SSDI you don't have enough work credits and you don't qualify, or under SSI you have too much income or assets and you don't qualify for SSI. As long as you meet the secondary threshold prong in either of the programs, whichever one you applied for, they'll go through this 5-step process. They're going to first look to see, are you currently engaging in substantial gainful activity? Substantial gainful activity this year, 2023, is working 20 hours a week or more, or earning more than $1,470 a month in gross earnings. If you are engaging in substantial gainful activity, the agency denies the application at step 1, saying you cannot be found disabled under our rules because you are currently engaging in substantial gainful activity. If you are not engaging in substantial gainful activity, the analysis moves to step 2, where the agency starts to review the medical records to determine, do you have at least one severe medically determinable impairment? Meaning, do you have at least one impairment that has an impact on your ability to perform basic work activities? If you don't have one severe medically determinable impairment, analysis will stop there. The agency will deny the claim at step 2. If you do have at least one severe impairment, the agency will move to step 3, where they are going to review your claim to see whether or not you meet or equal one of the listings in the Social Security Administration's Blue Book of Listings. The Blue Book of Listings can be found online. You can Google it. You want to make sure you're on the Social Security Administration's website. That way you're sure you're getting the best accurate information from the agency directly. And you'll want to make sure you're on the adult listings website, not the listings for children, unless you're looking at a child's claim. You can, the listing, the Blue Book, they're broken down by chapter based on body systems. So you'll see chapter 1 covers the musculoskeletal system, which we often see in claims that involve a motor vehicle accident, unfortunately. So that may be a good place to start, particularly if you notice you've got back pain, hip pain, knee pain, ankle pain stemming from that accident. You can look at the listings. You'll see they are a pretty high bar to meet. If you don't meet or equal a listing, the agency is going to create a residual functional capacity, or an RFC, for you based on the medical records in your file. The RFC that the agency creates is what they believe you're capable of performing on a continuous basis, or on a daily basis, I should say, in spite of the limitations that you have as a result of your conditions. That RFC is going to be used to compare to your past relevant work. And the agency is going to look, can an individual with this RFC perform this person's past relevant work, which is work performed in the last 15 years, long enough to learn how to do the job. If you can go back to your past work, you'll get a denial at step 4, where the agency will say you can go back to your past work, you're not disabled under our rules. If you cannot go back to your past work, the agency uses your age, education, work history, and RFC to determine whether or not there are other jobs that may exist for you that you can adjust to. If there are other jobs based on those factors, you'll get a denial at step 5. They'll say you can go do these jobs. If there are no other jobs that you can do based on your age, education, work history, and RFC, you'll get an approval at step 5. The definitions of disability are likely to vary from your personal injury case to your disability case through Social Security. Being found disabled in one does not equate to automatic disability in the other. The listings, Social Security rulings, and other guidance issued by the Social Security Administration can be helpful to understand the differences between the two claims. Medical records are going to be critical. As you'll see, if you go and look at the listings and things like that, the thresholds and definitions involved in the Social Security programs are likely to be different from the definitions in your personal injury case. Personal injury claims, definitions, and benefits do vary state to state, and so we're not going to cover that in this webinar. But the medical records from your personal injury case are likely to be relevant to your SSDI or SSI case, and therefore it might be prudent to ask for a copy of those records from your personal injury attorney when that case closes. You'll have those records indefinitely, and you'd be able to help share them with the Social Security Administration and or your disability attorney to help ensure that that claim gets approved. Also, there may be a financial offset from the benefits that you receive if you receive a settlement from the personal injury case and SSI. So SSDI, it's not as big of a concern typically, but it's going to be for SSI because of that asset threshold. Here's a non-exhaustive list of some of the ways an attorney may be able to help you. We can provide guidance on what correspondence from Social Security actually means, file necessary appeals if you're already a client of ours or you reach out to us within enough time after getting a denial. We do review your medical records and case file and can discuss what additional records may be helpful to your case. We review your documents for accuracy and completeness and can discuss with you what the agency is looking for in some of their forms that they're going to ask you to fill out. We work with you to provide relevant updates to and from Social Security throughout your claim. And if you have to go before an administrative law judge, we do, of course, prepare you for that hearing and then question you and any witnesses present during that hearing, including a vocational witness or a medical witness brought in by the Social Security Administration. Your personal witnesses, if you are a client of ours, ask about how we handle those because it tends to be a little bit different. As promised, here's our contact information. If you have questions about the Social Security disability process, particularly after a car accident, please feel free to reach out, give us a call, send us an email. We'll go ahead and drop that link in the chat again for live attendees to schedule a call with us regarding any Social Security questions that you have. And again, that link is down below for those watching on the replay. Thank you so much for joining us today. Have a wonderful day.